dream is Ackerman Acres, offering half-acre lots for $15,000 on Devil's Lake. Call Neil at 739-NEAL. It's the 4th annual Developer Rock and Roll Super Sale all week long. Get ready for extreme discounts on all the heavy metal on the lot. Sports cars, convertibles, program units, SUVs, luxury vehicles, and motorcycles, all priced and move fast. If your ride kicks up some serious tunes, enter Saturday's Developer Rock and Roll cereal competition for incredible prizes, including a $4,000 credit to the Pro Shop. Plus, come party with Highway 6 Friday night. We'll even have a beer garden from the main bar. We're loud and proud all week long during the Developer Rock and Roll Super Sale, only at Developer Motors. We're always treated like family.
it's at the 75-yard line, but I wouldn't give it that much yet, or the 25. The opponent's 25, but I wouldn't give it that much at this point. But it's all important part of making sausage.
Hey, Scott, thanks for the call. Let's go to Scott in Bismarck. He had a question on the Farm Bill as well. Scott, are you there?
Yes, I basically I just wanted to thank Mr. Cramer for coming on and doing these shows. I've been very critical of him on his Facebook page sometimes, and I've supported him a ton too. But he is the more conservative legislature that we have out of North Dakota, Mr. Holden. And don't cut me off, I'm not going to say nothing bad about him, but yes, he is a coward because he has not had a true open forum town hall meeting since he's been in the Senate. In other words, go to Bismarck, Grand Forks, Minot, Dickinson. Once a month at the minimum, those guys should be doing that so we can ask the question, and we should be able to ask a yes or no question, not get a political baloney answer. It should be yes or no.
I'm glad you're not going to say anything bad about it.
He is not a patriot, and he's a coward. It's as simple as that. Because if he wasn't a coward, he would come on this radio show and take the heat like Mr. Cramer does, and I thank him for that.
Thanks, Scott. I hate to call. Before I hear your response, I just want to let you know that Senator Hoban has agreed to come on this program every time we've asked. Just so you know, he does come on, he does take questions. But obviously, Kevin, you're setting aside a full hour, you're taking a lot of calls, and it's well received.
It's well received, Scott, but it's also very helpful for me because, and I think one of the differences, and one of the things I appreciate so much about the House of Representatives is it is the people's house. It's called the people's house for a reason. And when you're up for election every 2 years, and as I often tell student groups when they're out here, they'll often ask about term limits and the 2-year term thing. And I always say, listen, the founders had this figured out. They wanted to have a deliberative body that always had re-election hanging over their head because that's the leverage that the people have on the people's house, you know. And so that's the difference sort of in the House versus the Senate. The Senate being this deliberative body, they have 6-year terms, smaller group, more of a sort of a club membership, so to speak. But they have a different function, and I think together the two work very, very well. North Dakota's like 5 other states in that we only have one congressman or one House member, so we oftentimes get more compared to the senators. That doesn't happen in most states, as you might imagine.
Scott, your compliment for Congressman Cramer and Chris and for Senator Hoban didn't get to the Farm Bill question. Did you have a specific question on the Farm Bill for Kevin?
Well, he's kind of addressed it in the House has. I do not believe that the food stamp program is a social welfare program. It should have never been in the Farm Bill. I understand the politics to get the city people to buy into it or whatever, but it shouldn't be part of it, and it never should have been part of it.
Yeah, that's a good point, Scott. And this was a tough thing for a lot of people to do, and it was very hard for 500 farm organizations opposed to doing it, and they still did it. Although many of them are back on track now, and I very much appreciate North Dakota Farm Bureau coming out and supporting what we did. The part I like about it, I think it gets sort of to Scott's transparency point too. I think that we ought to have transparent, regular debate on public policy issues. I know politically it's nice to have these alliances that create majorities regardless of how bad half of a bill might be, but I don't really think that's what we ought to be doing. I think we ought to be debating public policy in transparency. That's the best backstop for free people. So I'm not one bit afraid of having a foreign policy discussion. I'll tell you the other thing about this bill, and should the House version pass, it's probably the most impressive thing and the least talked about. That is, we repealed 1938, 1949 laws as the permanent laws.
Kevin, I'm going to have to cut you off there. We're going into a hard break, but we'll let you finish that thought in just a couple of minutes. You're listening to What's on Your Mind, and more with Congressman Kevin Cramer when we come back. Scott and Steve will be right back with What's on Your Mind. Call now, 800-228-0550.
Welcome to Soybean Minute with Diana Beetlespotter.
We hear a lot about the importance of sustainability. What defines sustainability and why is this important to you? Sustainable agriculture is an integrated system of plant and animal production practices that satisfies human food and fiber needs, enhances environmental quality and the natural resource base the agricultural economy depends on, and makes the most efficient use of on-farm resources. Consumer demand for sustainable products is at an all-time high, which has manufacturers looking to source ingredients that are sustainably produced. Since soy is used to make so many products like food, feed, and fuel, sustainable soy is a hot commodity. Your efforts to produce sustainable soy will help protect your freedom to operate, increase soy sales among customers that demand sustainably sourced ingredients, and boost your bottom line.
This message is brought to you by the North Dakota Soybean Council and the Soybean Checkoff.
10:30 at KFYR 550. It's Jay Wandler, E&G Lending. Hi, Jay. How are you doing, Todd? Doing lovely, you? Great. Been working on a lot of files. Rates since the 1st of May have been bumping up, but lately they've been gaining some in leaps and bounds. These rates have been coming down again. So worked on a loan yesterday. Clients were in their house 3 years, so they basically have 27 years left on their mortgage obligation, and they didn't put a bunch of money down when they purchased the property, so they have the private mortgage insurance or the mortgage insurance premium that was running them easily in that $200 to $300 range. Now that's always going to vary on loan size and program, but the mortgage insurance has been creeping up there with basically the market and what happens. So a lot of these premiums increase because of the downfall in the market. And so what happened is this is passed along to you as a consumer. On a 30-year mortgage, traditionally it's going to be on there for the first about 12 to 14 years. What we're able to do is refinance the clients down to a 15-year mortgage. So you're thinking their payment's going to jump, but we were able to get the mortgage insurance off there, and their payment was actually $50 to $75 lower than their current 30-year mortgage. So there's a significant amount of savings for you to benefit as a consumer. If you have not refinanced in the last 5 years, give us a call. Even if I didn't originate your loan, there's a lot of opportunity where we can save you the money. Our key to our success, we keep our overhead low. We specialize in home mortgages. These are fixed interest rates, no prepayment penalties. Member FDIC, Eco Housing Lender. Give us a call, 456-LOAN or 456-5626 in the Dickinson office. That's 456-LOAN or 456-5626 in the Dickinson office. Bismarck locally, 250-8166. That's 250-8166. And up north in Williston, 577-LOAN or 577-5626. Remember, everything starts with a free confidential consultation. If it's not going to work, we can tell you up front. A good chance. And if we're going to save you a bunch of money, we're not going to save you a little bit, we're going to save you a bunch. Thanks, Dave. This is What's on Your Mind with Steve Bakken and, well, actually, Pat Think and fill in for Steve Bakken today. Congressman Kevin Cramer, our guest for the rest of the half hour. If you have a question or comment, welcome. 800-228-0550, 701-258-0550. And your email questions or comments, welcome as well. Studio at whatsonyourmindradio.com. Pat, did you want to get a comment in here before? Well, I think we'll let Kevin finish the thought he was on, and then I want to come back and address Scott, the caller Scott's previous comment.
Well, the issue with regard to permanent law that I was talking about in the Farm Bill, we replaced 1949 law with 2013 law because, every 5 years there's this reauthorization or this authorization of a Farm Bill. The default always was if we didn't pass new authorization, you reverted back to these antiquated laws that would double the price of milk, and you've heard about all those things. And of course, it leaves out many of the more contemporary and substantive. And anyway, so 2013 would become the permanent law, and it may actually make it unnecessary to even have. Let's put it this way: we won't have the same urgency every 5 years as we've had in the last couple of decades.
One of the things I can't, as you can imagine, Kevin, I couldn't let Scott's comment, the caller, before going unchallenged. Those kind words he had for Senator Hogan. But, one of the things that people have to understand is that, we're very fortunate in the state. Both you and Senator Hogan live here. You're not residents of D.C. and then, coming back here to visit. You live here and you go there to do what you do. And because of that, you guys travel all over the state. I mean, it's almost frenetic at times how busy you guys are. So to make the comment that you guys are, or especially Senator Hogan is not accessible is a ridiculous charge. I mean, you guys are all over the state. You're available to the public at those, and you do these kinds of shows, and I congratulate you. And I don't think people understand how much work there is for you guys to do when you take that kind of approach to come back and get around the state and visit with people. How much time and effort and energy that takes, in addition to
important for the people that have access to the public official, but it's more important to the public official because many of the good ideas, and I learn a lot of things, for example, on this show every week from callers that bring up issues, and sometimes as God knows, I don't know the answer to the question, but I generally try to have it by the next week, and it provides me an opportunity to, to look up and research some things I didn't know about.
Let's go to John in Carrington. We're still waiting to weigh in here, guys. John, go ahead. You're up for Congressman Kevin Cramer.
Hi, one comment. Thanks for supporting gun owners the way you do. Keep it up. I'll remember that when I vote. My main topic is, do you have any idea with all this population increase in this state? At what point would we get back a second Congress?
Sure. Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, we used to have to, didn't we? A couple of decades ago, or a few decades ago. I think, John, now you have to get pretty much 2 million. I don't know exactly that answer. We'll try to find that so that we can report on that next week. I've often been curious about it, but never enough to look it up. Because it takes into consideration the population in the entire country, of course, and whether or not a new member needs to be added, or whether you just whether you reallocate members and whatnot. But we'll check on that. But I think you have to get 2 million. But we'll find out for you and report next week.
Thanks for the question, John. Let's go to Bob in Grand Forks. Bob, do you have a question?
Hi, hey, Congressman. I appreciate all you're doing, and what I'm doing is I'm looking for a little help here. I went to an interview with TSA locally and was given a conditional contract of employment. Now, having said that, then you do your background check and your medical, and I went through the medical screening and they asked for more tests, and I'm willing to do that. But they tell me now that I must pay for these tests myself with no guarantee of employment. That doesn't sound right to me, considering any time you go for a job, if a company asks you to do the medical test, they pay for it. How can I deal with this?
The best thing for me to tell you right now is let us open a case file on it. That requires you signing a waiver for some kind of confidentiality thing. It's not a waiver, but we keep it confidential so we can begin working specifically on the case and see if there's some reason for that. And if there's a simple rule or policy reason for it, then of course there's not a lot we can do. But if there's something more we can do, we sure want to be able to inquire, and oftentimes an inquiry will help settle it. But I don't know for sure. So let's do this. If we can get off the air, or even if you'd call my North Dakota office, that would probably be the best way. And then we can get a case opened up on it.
All right, I'll give your office a call and then give them all my information.
Sure. Don't you have
Thank you very much.
You know my North Dakota numbers?
No, I don't.
Let me give you.
Let me just look them up.
Yeah, try 701-356-2216.
2216. All right, thank you very much.
And we'll get that from Kevin, and we'll put that up on the What's on Your Mind website as well, so people can access that in case you didn't get a chance to write that down. Bob, thanks for the call. Let's go to Carl in Fargo. Carl, did you have a comment or question?
Yeah, I was thinking about cruise stamps. I believe that started about 1965 or so.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah, Medicare and all that. LBJ is president. I lean to the liberal side, but I'll throw out a philosophy. Maybe I'll sound pretty darn conservative. I've often wondered if somebody's
lines. I don't think we ought to just cut people off because they get a job. I think we ought to reward them for getting a job, but we want to help them get a good paying job that adds dignity and integrity and removes the need for the other's assistance. So that's sort of a like answer. But great, very nice.
Another one waiting to weigh in here, Ed in Bismarck. Go ahead for Congressman Kevin Cramer. Ed, you're up next.
Yeah, the problem I have with food stamps is not that we give food stamps to people, it's that they get pop and candy and stuff that shouldn't be allowed.
Yeah. There's some limits, and of course on food stamps, but the problem is there's a lot of abuse with it as well, and we hear about a lot of those things. I mean, I know of situations that I've learned of in North Dakota where people, actually will sell their food stamps, or they'll take their card into a grocery store, buy a bunch of groceries, sell them to somebody prearranged, 30 cents on the dollar, and then they use the money for other things. And those are all the things that the original Republican Farm Bill, or the bipartisan Farm Bill, tried to stop in the reforms, and those are the things that too many Democrats objected to, and so we weren't able to get enough votes with the bipartisan bill. So, but you're right, we have to get after some of those abuse and waste opportunities. Thanks for the call. Let's move on. We've got Eric in Fargo. You had a question about Obamacare.
Yeah, I just had tying Obamacare, the repeal of Obamacare, tying that in with the immigration bill. I know you guys are going to bring up the immigration bill that Senate passed. I would ask that you pass another bill repealing Obamacare and send that to the Senate and tell the Senate that they have to vote on that before you bring up the immigration bill at all.
Yeah. Well, a couple of things there. First of all, we won't bring up the Senate immigration bill in the House. There's no chance of that happening. The Speaker's been clear on that. If we bring up immigration reform at all in the House, it'll be issue by issue, starting with securing the border, dealing with 11 million undocumented workers, and then, of course, legalized immigration, how we get an adequate workforce to meet the demands of our growing economy, or at least the needs, the certain areas of our economy that have workforce needs. Those are very separate issues, and that's probably how they'll be dealt with. Here, with regard to repealing Obamacare, of course, the House has passed it several times, but what we're doing today, I think, is probably the most significant issue that actually has some attraction, and it has some traction for Democrats. It puts them in a real bind, and that is, of course, codifying what the president's already done, and that is the one-year delay for the business mandate, and adding to that a one-year delay for the individual mandate. And I think what we're seeing is that the deterioration of Obamacare under its own weight, and so that's likely more the way we're going to go. But with regard to specifically immigration, I think the House approach will be very different, and I assure you that the things that I've seen already, we've had dozens of hearings on this issue, immigration reform, in a couple of the committees, and the border will be secure, and it'll be verified secure before anything else gets done.
If you pass something on immigration, does that allow them to take it into conference and then pass something completely?
And the conference process is suspicious, Eric, and so you raise a very important point.
That's the biggest concern, I think, for everybody, is if you pass anything, it'll go to conference, and then you'll just create a big law that this administration can pull a bunch of levers to continue their fundamental transformation of this country, and I think that's the problem with Obamacare, the immigration bill as well.
Yeah, if immigration gets conference and comes back in a form that does not secure the border first and verify security of the border, by that I don't mean trust the administration, whether it's Ronald Reagan or Barack Obama. I'm talking about verification of the GAO in a way that's substantive. If it comes back from a conference committee without that assurances, the House of Representatives will not pass that type of a bill.
Eric, thanks for the call. Sean and Minot, Brian and Williston, Hale and Fargo, waiting to weigh in. Congressman Kevin Cramer, another segment to go. Straight ahead on our Talk Radio Town Hall with your questions and comments. Stay tuned. Steve Duncan and Scott Hennen want to know what's on your mind. Call us at 800-228-0550.
From the very beginning, our founding sisters recognized that if Mary College was to be successful, that it was a collaborative effort, and they looked to the community. It was just a handful of sisters when we think of that beginning faculty, but quite soon they were looking to the community for leadership, so the collaborative spirit was what made possible growth, and in fact, for
reliable, accurate, and effective eyes-at-the-bed geologic analysis possible. We're talking a little bit about doing business in the market today with Kathy Nesset of Nesset Consulting Services. Kathy, talk about what's happening all around us.
Crazy. I could not have imagined in my wildest dreams that we would be at quite this level of success and activity in Western North Dakota. It's just absolutely thrilling. I'm glad to be part of it. I think it's just terrific what's going on. Sure, there's obviously, repercussions. There are things and issues to deal with. But generally speaking, I think this is just a huge success and boom for North Dakota, Montana.
Nesset Consulting Service in the heart of the market. From the oil capital of North Dakota, Tioga. Call them at 701-664-1492. Go to NessetConsulting.com or find the link at PocketBeacon.com. For 10 years, the biggest event at Dakota Speedway has been the Monster Truck Night of Fire and Thrill Spectacular. Everybody in Bismarck and Bandit. Saturday night, August 3rd, it's back, bigger than ever. Borat Motors presents the Monster Truck Night of Fire and Thrill Spectacular. Bad boy monster trucks flying 30 feet in the air. This for the first time ever, a Hollywood stunt show with car directions that'll blow you away. And wild trailer races. And birds will be flying everywhere. Plus tough trucks. But hey, listen to this. After the tough trucks do their thing, they're gonna crash into each other, making a wild demo derby. The night is at these hotels, water parks, and first 500 kids get a free toy monster truck. There's a limited amount of advance tickets for only $10. When they're gone, they're gone. All advance tickets get a free mid-party pass to meet the driver at Old Bismarck and Bandit's next location. Or just get them at the gate. Saturday, August 3rd, one show only. Gates open at 5, show starts at 7:30, and this is the biggest monster truck night of thrills Dakota Speedway has ever seen. Rain or shine, the Dakota Speedway will rock.
It's fun in the sun at Ford Sport and Marine. Get the best deals on the road with the Can-Am Spider and take your summer up a notch. The Can-Am Spider is like nothing else on the road with the incredible stability of this exclusive wide-frame design. 2 wheels in front, 1 in the back. Now you can get any Can-Am Spider RT model with financing as low as 2.9% for 36 months. The fun in the sun sales event. Ford Sport and Marine, Marina Road, Manchester. Offering December 31st. Give them the details.
Here at the GED Pep Talk Center, we've got a pep talk that can motivate you.
Our sentences don't always turn out the way you want them to.
Your future.
The GED based on and take the first step towards a better life. Real.
Don't make me repeat myself.
Whatever level of motivation you need, we've got a pep talk for you. Call 1-877-38-4GED or visit yourged.org for your pep talk and for free classes in your area. GED is a registered trademark of the American Council on Education, brought to you by Knowledge and Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council. And you're listening to What's on Your Mind with Scott Hennen and Steve Baukens' little brother, Pat Bacon. No, not really. The numbers to call if you want to talk to Congressman Cramer are 258-0550. That's in the Bismarck area. And then toll free anywhere in the world and the universe at 800-228-0550. Let's go to John. You have a question for the Congressman. Hey, John, you're up.
Say I come from an old-time Republican Main Street family. And I gotta say this. The Republicans in the House, they repealed this Obamacare 16 dozen times. If that's all they got to do, they ought to look themselves in the mirror. Everybody needs some kind of health insurance, and they should have to pay what they can afford. Now, Cramer's been on free health insurance in all his public career. Somebody's got to do something, and I don't know that this is the right answer, but, yeah, you got to do something. As far as food stamps go, hey, I heard Petey over on the Minnesota side, 20 years on the House Ag Committee. He says there's more graft and fraud in farm crop insurance than there is in food stamps on a percentage basis. What do you think about that, Cramer?
Well, I don't know that there is, because I don't think crop insurance has been around as long as food stamps, and I don't doubt that there's some fraud and corruption, but there is a lot of fraud, corruption in a lot of government. There's no question. Anytime you make money easily available to lots of people are going to try to find ways to get it, and it doesn't even have to necessarily be fraud or corruption to be abusive, and that's probably a better way to put it. I think most people probably can follow the law, but they oftentimes find ways to health care. I don't think I've ever had free health care. I can't think of a time when I had free health care, but maybe there's a time back in history as far as the House of Representatives goes. We're stuck with Obamacare. We are on Obamacare. When Obamacare kicks in, it kicks in for every member of the House of Representatives and every one of our staff members. They'll all be part of that same exchange. Even if we pay for it, we pay for our insurance. It's not even a benefit that's given to members of Congress. It's one that we have to pay for. So, at any rate, yeah, that's a great point.
Let's go on to Brian and Williston. Brian, did you have a question for Congressman Cramer?
Yeah, we could. Let's call right here.
Go ahead, Brian.
Yes, good day. Thank you, Congressman Cramer, for your service and what's on your mind for this fantastic forum. Following your show a couple weeks ago, I was listening to the Rush Limbaugh show, and their expert, I can't remember if this was a congressperson or not, but their expert on the Obamacare system made a point that with this upcoming extension with the companies, regarding Obamacare for a year, what it did was it opened up a loophole for basically every company, anybody employed with any company in the United